During an interview with Fox and Friends last week, Republican Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, laid out basically the four principles upon which the impeachment inquiry of President Biden is based. Here is what Jim Jordan had to say. Again, four tenets of this inquiry. The first is Hunter Biden was put on the Burisma board. Second, he was put on the board with no qualifications. Third, Burisma asked him, can you weigh in with D.C. to relieve the pressure we're under from the prosecution, from the prosecutor here in Ukraine? And fourth, and this is the most important one, Joe Biden did just that. He leveraged our tax money to get the prosecutor fired. And the fourth fact is validation of what the confidential human source said in the 1023 form. So that is what is central to the case. Well, shoot, I mean, case closed, right? Because we do know President Biden talked to Ukraine and said, hey, you got to fire this prosecutor, Viktor Shokin. He's got to go. He's corrupt. Except that's not even exactly how that happened. Not only was there broad bipartisan support to push Ukraine to oust that failed and wholly corrupt prosecutor here in the United States, but we actually had a global coalition of countries pushing Ukraine to finally do something about corruption by ousting this allegedly corrupt prosecutor. Here's from the CNN fact check. Joe Biden's actions were consistent with bipartisan U.S. policy, which sought to remove the prosecutor because he wasn't doing enough to crack down on corruption, including at Burisma. The Obama administration, Senate Republicans, U.S. allies, the International Monetary Fund, and Ukrainian anti-corruption activists, among others, had all made clear that they were displeased with the performance of Viktor Shokin, who became Ukraine's prosecutor general in 2015. Replacing Shokin would have ramped up scrutiny of Burisma, not shut it down. So Jim Jordan, in announcing his four tenets of the impeachment, which the first one is Hunter Biden was put on the board of Burisma and he shouldn't have been. Okay, that's not criminal. But he's basing this entire thing on an 8-year-old story that's already been debunked. Biden did not act alone in asking for Shokin to be fired. Hunter Biden is not the one that drove the policy that pushed Biden to push for the prosecutor to be fired. Do you really think Hunter frickin' Biden has that kind of power? I know you do, actually. But in order for Jim Jordan's little conspiracy theory to be true, here's what would have had to have happened based on his own talking points. Hunter Biden, a private citizen of the United States on a board where he doesn't deserve to be there, would have had to have pressured his father, then the vice president of the United States, to fire Viktor Shokin, even though Viktor Shokin was not, in fact, investigating Burisma, so that would have been a very weird thing to do. But anyway, Hunter Biden then would have had to have had enough influence to convince the vice president, to convince the president, to convince the Senate Republicans, to also convince the International Monetary Fund, to also convince multiple different countries in Europe to oust this prosecutor. That, folks, is just unprecedented power that Hunter Biden allegedly had in the year 2015. And in order for any of Jim Jordan's statements about this impeachment to be true, that is what had to have happened. That is not what happened. Jim Jordan's basis for this impeachment inquiry has already been debunked, but here we are, and here we go, because he's not stopping. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.